Gerald. I'm the regional president of the NAACP for Alaska, Oregon, and Washington. You also have here Ms. Carolyn Riley Payne, when she stopped in on the phone, which is the president of the Seattle-King County NAACP. And then you have my left hand, we don't say right here, Sheley Seacrest, the vice president of the NAACP, amongst others, as you see. First, before we begin, I want to assemble the families here to come sit down and have a conversation and be available for whatever questions that you have. Now, we all know what's going on all around the world. Right now, racism is at the forefront of police killings in our community. We know, as NAACP, the nation's oldest civil rights organization, we have been dealing with this issue for 400 years. Now, we know there's a lot of movement that's going on around this country on this issue, but we at the NAACP will center our position based on what the family is going to be calling for. And we're going to start there and let them say the one thing they all have in common is they have lost a loved one to police violence. And while everyone is focusing on Minnesota, we have a lot of tragedies that happen here, particularly in this state, particularly here in Seattle. But the experts in this room are going to be these family folks who lost a loved one here. I know there's a lot of questions about a lot of different demands, but our demands as NAACP is going to be based around the demands that the community is calling for. There's a lot of discussions being had that we have yet to intervene to talk about, whether it's the city level or the local level, to talk about what we want to see change. We've been in this fight for over 400 years in this country. NAACP, in particular in Seattle, have been in this fight over 107 years. So what we're experiencing today, many that came before us has been fighting this fight. So we stand on the shoulders of those folks who came before us. Now, there is no separation when it comes to our principles, but we ultimately want to make sure that Seattle need to hear from the people whose lives they have talking, and that's just not in Seattle, statewide. And we're going to allow you as media to ask the questions of those family members, to ask them what do they want to see change, and that's going to be the fight that we take to the streets of Seattle moving forward. But I'll be remiss if I didn't first allow Pastor Seals to come open up this with prayer, because we all lead with prayer, if you don't mind. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Shall we pray? Divine Eternal Father, we invoke your great and awesome name, and that is the name I am that I am. Master, we pray right now as we lift up these family members who have experienced this great tragedy. And Master, we pray, Father, that we want them to know in their heart and in their soul and their spirit, not only do we care, but you care as well. So, Father, we pray that you undergird them now. And Master, we thank you for the community at large who is here today to support and guide legally, to support and advocate for these families. And Master, we invoke your great name, that you would come now and guide, oh God, this press conference. Gird our minds that the message, oh God, will impact, oh God, not only this community, but the world. It is in the name of Christ, it is in the name of El Shaddai that we pray. Amen.
Good afternoon, Wyking, Garrett, President and CEO of Africatown Community Land Trust and King County Equity Now Coalition. Here to welcome families from our community, NAACP and others, to this space, which we consider a sacred space and an important space. We need space to heal, and then we can rebuild our communities. We need to get the knee off of our neck in our communities, which has been on our neck since we've been here. And we know that it's increased with the predatory development and the weed and seed gentrification. And we know that over-policing, police violence, police terrorism that results in these type of tragedies are directly tied to gentrification and displacement and moving us out of our communities or keeping us contained and suppressed economically in our communities. And so it's important that we are here at the Liberty Bank building which is erected in honor of the original Liberty Bank, which was founded in 1968 as the second black bank west of the Mississippi to give black community, which was being denied economic access to economic mobility and capital to do that. And because we know that these are the things that really make communities safer. It's not more militarized police that make Laurel Hurst safer. It's not more militarized individuals with negative attitudes and poor problem-solving skills and poor de-escalation skills that make Broadmoor safer. It's not police in schools that make Lakeside a great school. It's the resources, it's access to economic sustainability, it's access to housing and opportunities to move forward and realize your potential as a human being is what make these communities safer. And so we welcome these conversations here about how will our community really become safer and how will the families that have been harmed by these bad policies and practices get justice, and so that the lives will not be lost in vain, because we need to create, again, space and place so that those lives that have been lost can be honored by us saving lives and making lives better and making lives safe and able to grow in our communities. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Sheley Anderson, spelled S-H-E-L-E-Y. Last name Anderson, A-N-D-E-R-S-O-N. I am the Vice President of the Alaska, Oregon, Washington NAACP State Area Conference. Thank you all for being here. This really is, as the President had shared, this is our opportunity to give you the microphone. We hear so often of the changes that we want to see and how police are in our neighborhoods, how police are funded, how police are convicted. This is our opportunity to make sure that the focus really is centered upon those who are directly impacted. We want you to tell your story. We want to make certain that organizations like mine, the NAACP, that we're leading behind, and that we are pushing really the issues that you all are bringing to the table. So this is just that. This is the round tabletop discussion. I'm going to ask you to first share who your loved one was. So often, just that simple picture is painted differently when it goes through this process, when it is seen through the media. So tell us, who was your loved one? Then share with us, what are some of the barriers you faced in trying to get justice? And then finally, what are some of the things that you want to see? If we could wave our wand, what's next? What are the changes you'd like to see? What does justice look like for you? So I'll start with the Sean Fur family. And as you are sharing, please start with stating your name, stating your loved one's name, spell, and then go directly into sharing who they were, what barriers, and what does justice look like. I'm going to start with you.
My name is Jason Fuhr. That's Jasonfuhr. Sean Fuhr was my son, and this is my oldest son to the left of me. My son was murdered on camera, and it has me at such unease and unrest that something is on camera. I mean, we've seen it before, but now it's personal to me. My worst fear as raising black children happened. My son was murdered by the police, and it was on camera. And he's at home getting a check, and I watched my family fall apart. And all my kids are, worried about their safety. Just by the police, but to themselves because of the hurt that they have. We just went on a family weekend trip, and it wasn't the same. Sean was there, and he's like, our family's small, and everybody plays their position in our family unit. And without that one piece there, it's like a wheel with a flat side. It's like, you can't get away from it. You can go anywhere and it's there. And Sean was a people builder. If something was wrong with you, he would pick you up. He'd make you laugh. Like, Sean had it since like that, since he was a child. He had a special ability. He never got down. He never got depressed. He was just a really good person. When we had his service, over 1,000 people came that he had touched their life, And everybody is just broke up over this. They can't believe it happened to him. He was running with his baby and was shot in the backyard. He ran into a backyard. There was nowhere else for him to go. And they still shot him. And this man's at home, and he has not been charged. If that had been me or anybody else, we'd be in jail immediately. And I don't think it's fair to any of us as people that's had their family members die unjustly by the hands of another human being, to have to sit at home and know while we're sitting there tore up, this guy's at home cashing his full paycheck every other week or however. It's not right and it's not fair. And I feel like 6 months is way too long for somebody to have to take to investigate something that's on camera. Did you shoot an unarmed man with his baby in his arms when he ran into a backyard and had nowhere else to go? That's the only question that needs to be asked. Yes, then he should be charged. It's just that easy. What's simple for me seems to be so hard for them, and I don't understand, because anybody I talk to, it's simple mathematics. Did he have a gun? No. Did the police say drop a gun? No. He had his baby wrapped in both his arms. He was running for fear of them. He thought he'd be safe with his baby in his arms, but he wasn't. When they left the police precinct, I know they left to kill my son. They came to kill him. That's why even a sniper was in place. And that's got to change. The way they respond. And this is... I don't understand a lot, but I understand what's right. And I know what's right in my heart. And I know what's right to anybody else that didn't have a badge. This is murder. And he needs to be punished, because we don't have any justice until that happens. I mean...
Tell us some of the barriers for getting the officers punished. What barriers have you
Well,
encountered?
this was April 29th that this happened, and I haven't spoke to an investigator yet. Yeah, so I haven't spoke to it. I did call and leave a message trying to get my son's personal effects. He worked for our company. He had just got paid $4,000. And I called, and the people he was with said he had money on him, and she told me that he had not a dollar on him, and that's not my son. Like, he would never not have not a dollar. Never. We want quick justice. We want it fast. It's swift justice. We want this man to be charged with murder and let the jury decide. Let the jury decide.
Yes.
You know, the community that you are out there for, let them decide if you murdered my son or not.
So my name is Katrina Johnson, spelled Katrina Johnsson. I am the cousin and the spokesperson for my family. My cousin Charlena Lyles was killed June 18, 2017 by the Seattle Police Department. She called the police for help to report a burglary. Shortly after they arrived, they shot her 7 times in front of 3 of her 4 children. She was also 14 weeks pregnant. So not only did they kill her, they killed the baby too. And we just crossed the 3-year mark, and we still don't have no justice, and we still don't have no answers. So I'm concerned that you will be treated the exact same way my family was treated. And no matter what was going on, if my cousin was in a mental health crisis, I do not think that being in a mental health crisis, that you should be condemned to your death. And we've been fighting ever since. And I don't even know what justice is anymore. I don't even know if that's a real thing. Because you continue to see law enforcement here in Washington State and all across the nation murder people with impunity. And so justice, I don't even know if that's a thing. Our family demands are, we want Jason Anderson and Stephen McNew to drop their lawsuits against the county that are hindering the inquest process, so that our family could actually know what happened on June 18th. Why did 2 6'4", 250-pound officers have to shoot one 5'3" pregnant 100-pound woman in her house in front of her kids? And until those lawsuits are dropped, we will have no answers, right along with several other families who can't get answers into what happened to their loved ones as well. The other demands are for Kent, Renton, Federal Way, Auburn to drop their lawsuits as well that are preventing inquest reforms from going through. I want to, our family wants defunding of the police and reinvested into Black community and communities of color that have historically been disenfranchised by the system. And I'm calling for the resignation of our Seattle mayor, Jenny Durkin. Our family is, because she lied to us before she was mayor. She promised us that she lied to us. She told us that she would be accountable. She would hold officers accountable. And yet I continue to have more people added to the family that no one wants to be in. And the only way to get into this family is your loved one's blood spilled in the streets. And I'm tired of having more family members. And for that, I think that she needs to resign because she obviously isn't doing a good job.
My name is Monet, spelled M-O-N-E-T. My brother's name was Manuel Ellis. He was murdered by Tacoma Police Department in Pierce County, Washington on March 3rd, 2020. And they tried to cover it up. there was no contact like everyone else. They made no contact with us. I didn't even get notified correctly about my brother's passing. Someone at the Pierce County Medical Examiner's Office had called me while I was at work to tell me that he had passed. We were given a Detective Brockner's name through the Pierce County Sheriff's Office, but he has yet to return my phone calls that I made to him back in March. It wasn't until June 3rd or June 4th when an investigator from the News Tribune contacted me saying that she had called the medical examiner's office and she had his autopsy results, which they ruled it a homicide. But the findings that were ruled on that day were physical findings, which means they knew when they had my brother's body how he died. They didn't follow any of the guidelines in regards to I-940. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but they are, with I-940, there's a lot of things put in place with identifying or notifying a family member, giving you a liaison within 72 hours, also having someone independently come in and check out what's going on or what happened. They have to give officers names within 72 hours. There's like a long list of things that the Tacoma Police Department and the Pierce County Sheriff's Office did not do. And when I asked what happens when they don't follow the law, I had shoulder shrugs and stutters. So I just want everyone to know that even though they keep referring back to I-940, I-940 does nothing for our families. It just gives the police another way to not be held accountable. There's no accountability with I-940. Whoever put it in place or started the legislation for that, they have a lot of questions that need to be answered by the families, because the main thing that should have been in that legislation is accountability. These police officers are able to go around, mess with people. They went and they targeted my brother. He was walking down the street. He did nothing wrong. Multiple witnesses have stated that. And he got brutally beaten to death on camera. Videos didn't come out until 3 months after the fact. And it was only because of me screaming at the top of my lungs, hoping that someone would hear me. So our list of demands are, we have a lot, but I'm gonna give you 3 right now. The immediate firing of the police officers, Ranking, Burbank. Hold on, let me pull up my phone so I can make sure I get their correct names. So Matthew Collins, Christopher Burbank, Messiah Ford, and Timothy Ranking, we want them fired immediately and charged immediately. Just recently in Atlanta and in Minneapolis, it took days for firing of officers and charging of officers. It shouldn't take this long. I don't know what it is that they're protecting or trying to hide, but their secret has been blown. We know what you've done, and now it's time to hold them accountable. Also, the immediate firing of Detective Ed Schroyer. He lied on national television. He had stated that my brother was banging on cars and assaulting police officers, but we've all seen in video and with witness statement that my brother was doing nothing. They said there was no knees and necks and no chokeholds, when we've also seen in video that that's exactly what was done. Knees were in my brother's neck. He was tased to death and he was put in a chokehold. So these people that are given all of this power, they're abusing it, which means that power needs to be taken away from them. Same thing with the Pierce County Sheriff's chief. He's supposed to be overseeing these things. What happened with that? he needs to go too. Furthermore, Ramsdell, the Tacoma Police Department's chief, he needs to go as well. He did not hold his officers accountable. He's been trying to protect them. He's been hiding things. He's hid things in the past. There's been police officers in the past that have killed people and assaulted people that are still on the force, still working, still earning paychecks. Also, another thing that I wanted to add was the police officers that were involved with killing my brother. They were put on administrative leave in the beginning, so they say, but it wasn't until the videos came out on June 3rd, June 4th, that they got put back on leave, which means this investigation that they supposedly did was over because they felt confident enough to allow these officers to go back onto the streets. So that's our immediate demand right now, is the firing of these officers, the firing of these people that have these high positions of power in law enforcement, and convictions. We want people to get charged and eventually convicted. It doesn't take 6 months. We see it all over the U.S. It does not take 6 months. It's not going to take 6 months. I'm not going to let up and I'm not going to stop. So I need the Attorney General and the Governor to get on board, stop making announcements about what you plan on doing and actually do it.
Good.
So,
This is my mom, Marcia.
so one of the things that we've been discussing, describe your loved one. Describe your loved one in your words. Who was he? What are the barriers you faced? And what does justice look like for you? Just touch on those.
He was my son, first of all, my baby. I'm not gonna cry anymore. I cried for 3 months, 4 months now. All the crying is stopping. Now I want to see action. I told the mayor that this week. I want to see her do her job. That's what needs to happen. These people need to do their jobs. Quit killing black men, because that's what they're doing. They're men, white men. They're not killing white men. They're killing black men. My son, murdered. 96 in Ainsworth, walking from the store. What does this look like to me? My son loved me. He adored me. My son never, ever, ever talked disrespectful, put his hands on me. He was a kind, loving, gentle man. I'm not saying he was perfect, but in my eye, and his sister's eye that has his voice, she's the one that's speaking out on what needs to happen. Because I'm tired of crying and looking at an empty piece of plot and a piece of land that I have to go to lay flowers on. He doesn't even have a headstone. What was the barriers that are put up? The mayor comes and talks to me in a loving, kind way. Okay? And she's going to do something about it, she says. The city manager. Does the city manager need to be fired too? I say go through the whole damn police department, get rid of all of them, and do it again. Try it over. Now, I got to say this, because the white man that killed Mr. Floyd, they got him under protection. No black person can touch him. Is that right? Do we have that opportunity?
No.
To go into prison and then we can't deal with any white people? White folks run the world. Y'all come on, let's do something. I'm really tired of it. I'm tired of crying every day. I look at my son's picture. I'm tired of being sick and tired. Honestly, it's sickening. And then you meet people and the white folks say, Oh, we so understand. And I have cops in my family, and they're just really, they understand. Well, go tell the cop in your family what you're telling me. If you really believe that, tell them that. Let's have a conversation, because there's always a big elephant in the room with white folks when we get in the room with them. I mean, even look out. There's one black person on the camera, and all these other folks is white. I'm tired. Seriously. I want my son to have some justice. I want people fired. I want them in jail. And I want them to stand trial for what they did at the maximum penalty.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. I think you've heard it there. I'm sorry, I hope I don't knock over your cup. After listening here, you see there's two things that these folks here have in common. One, that they all lost a loved one at the hands of the police. Two, none of them got any justice. But we also have to understand the history where it started at, where the police was created to protect the property of the white man. The slaves were chasing the slaves for the slave. They always have treated us as property before they treated us as people. 400 and some years we've been dealing with this. So there's no reason to not understand why we're here talking about this again. Again and again. All the way back with Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, George Floyd. But we don't have to go to the East Coast to deal with this. We look at it right here in the city of Seattle. Manuel Ellis, I'm sorry, yes ma'am. Manuel Ellis in Tacoma. This is a statewide issue, so we're going to make sure the one most important thing that's being overlooked here, that the city and the state spoke with 940, put the law into place. But now that these incidents have happened, these tragedies happening, where is it at? Why did it be enforced? Why is there no infrastructure to make sure that the law that the folks have fought for to put in place, why has it not been implemented? Where you at, Jay Inslee?
That's right. Call him out.
Yeah, where you at, Ferguson? Stop making excuses. If I get one more damn invite to a damn task force, then I'm going to be out there locking up the shit down, because this is ridiculous. How many times we got to keep reminding you our people is dying on this street? We are done dying. And all of a sudden you get this incident that's going on, people get paranoid. Good. Now you know what it feels like being black walking down the streets of Seattle all the way up through Tacoma. This is what the NAACP is about. This is what we're trying to say. And please stop with all these distractions of all these different occupations everywhere, because this is really about stopping these people from killing our people. And it's not just men, women too. Breonna Taylor, Charlene Lyles.
That's right.
They don't give a damn about our life. They got y'all running around getting stories, talking about all this stuff going on around the city. Who cares? Who cares? Because it's not your loved one that's being gunned down in the street and you can't get no answer. It's sad today that we got to call a white person to call the police to get answers from our children. And what do we say to our kids that's growing up? Be careful of the police.
Be careful.
Don't trust the police. Then you're mad we ain't got no relationship with you. Of course we don't want no relationship with you. NAACP, we have never been anti-cop. We are anti-racist cop.
That's right.
Yes.
We're anti-racist cop. And if we get one more call to meet, for what? Durkin, Chief Best, we expect these things to be done now. The people spoke with 940 several years ago. What seems to be the problem? Utilize the law that was put in place.
That's it.
What's enough noise? We tired of the rhetoric coming from the city of Seattle. We tired of the rhetoric coming from Tacoma. We tired of the rhetoric coming from the governor's office. We tired of the rhetoric. Stop blaming the White House. Because the White House, even though whatever they do, they were not the person that pulled the trigger.
That's right.
On these folks here.
That's right.
And how is it possible that these folks can't even get a courtesy call? A courtesy call to say, I'm sorry for the life of your loved one. They can't even get a courtesy call. What policy we got to change that to get human decency in leadership roles? And yeah, we know everybody going out here running for re-election. We're going to remember that. We know that. And I'm more worried about if we replace it with another racist, what difference do we make? We got to make systemic changes. Don't come and offer us a check and say we're going to invest in your community. We want to break these damn policies down to make sure our people are reflected. The NAACP, we backing what the families wanted. You heard them clearly say they even got a call. That the sister had to call them to get some information, and the Tacoma News Tribune is how she found out the information. And I have yet in my life to see, as a 51-year-old man, when a medical examiner called it a homicide, the very next thing that typically happens, somebody get arrested. Someone going to trial, except when you're a cop.
That's right.
So our demands as NAACP, fire the cop, charge the cops, and convict the cops.
That's right. That's right.
Convict the cops. We're not just going to accept the fact that they locked up and get $1 million bail, or they get leave, which is paid, which is nothing more than a vacation. It's almost incentivizing going out killing people so I can get a vacation.
That's right.
And then giving them an award.
And yeah, of course, they recognize this is systemic all across this nation. All across this nation. And we are not, as a community, we are not going to allow for others to continue to create these distractions to take us off topic. This was about racism.
That's right.
Racism. Obviously, we got a lot of issues going on, whether it be healthcare, education, racism, cops killing our people and walking free. Some get raises, some get awards, but some get vacations. Back on the beat. And we have to do the work of these investigators to find this out in order to get some sort of justice. Because the reason why we do the organizing is to get y'all to focus y'all cameras on the issues that put pressures on the policymakers. Why can't we just pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, could you tell me what happened to my child? Why the games? Why the tongue-in-cheek moments? Why your firewall? Everybody's trying to out-organize us, but we've been doing this for 100 years in this city. We've been doing it for 400 years in this country, and we are done dying.
That's right. I'm
done asking questions, only to be lied to. These are the goals of the NAACP. These are the focus that we want to put the family center. And I'm saying we want that done this year. Just like we've been fighting this for 100 years, we want this done in 100 days. This is the timeline we're putting on Seattle. There's no reason why you can assemble. Isn't it strange how COVID-19 created a crisis? Everybody can come together to come up with a strategy. But throughout the years we've been fighting, all of a sudden we ain't got time because we got other focuses. Of course you do when there's another black life lost in the streets. Gunned down like animals. You actually treat pets with more respect than you do black men and women. So whoever's listening, understand this is what this is about. It ain't about your shit, it's about our issue, about our people, about our community, about us, the ones that's being killed in the streets. These are the people we gotta make sure it's off the street.
There ain't no justice in somebody murdering somebody, running with his child in his arms.
Yes.
There's no justice in that.
Think about that.
Put yourself in my place.
I'm gonna let him finish y'all, but that is the position of the NAACP. After you go, I'm
then
gonna
open
James
it up.
Bible to say a few words, so y'all open it up.
Put yourself in my place. Don't just let it be Sean that was running with his baby, somebody that you don't know. Just picture that. Your son running with his 1-year-old baby, scared of what the police are going to do to him, and gets cornered in a backyard, and they shoot him in the head. Now picture that being your son. And you, and it's on camera. It's on camera. Everybody in the world can see it. And the man is not arrested. What's right? The law should be about what is right. It shouldn't be about the paint job. Because he's black, it didn't matter. He was my son. His brother. His mother's son. He was somebody to all of us. He was a key figure in my family. And we cried every day, every single one of us. And all we want is what's right. We don't want you to bend a rule. We don't want you to make a new thing. We want what's right. What's right is Noah Zek goes to jail. And if he had somebody tell him to take that shot, then they need to go to jail too. Because they're just as guilty as he is. Because he had a conscious call. Even when they said, kill Sean. They said he had a gun, kill him. He had a conscious call when he scoped him out and seen he held that baby. And he had no threat to that officer except for he had his back to him running. At that moment, he could have said no. But he chose to. I'm going to kill him anyways.
They have a special form of accountability in Pierce County. They have a special form of accountability in Tacoma, Washington. If you paid attention, you will know that one officer in Tacoma actually filed a lawsuit for wrongful termination. Why was he fired? Because he wouldn't use deadly force against someone. That's a special form of accountability when you say, if you don't kill somebody, we're going to fire you. On 96 in Ainsworth, a man that was just walking to a store to get some snacks after church was last heard saying, "I can't breathe, sir. I can't breathe." Now, he was uttering those words. His very last words, as an officer had wrapped his arms around his neck, his hands were in the air, and another officer was pointing a taser right at his chest, pulling the trigger more than one time. They have a special brand of accountability in Pierce County, and it says kill black people. And it says if you're not prepared to kill black people, then we will fire you. Those officers that murdered Manuel Ellis are still getting paid. Just yesterday, one of those officers actually got an award for what they described as responsible service.
Oh, wow.
Responsible service. So compare the two. One officer is fired because he doesn't kill someone. Another officer kills an unarmed man with his bare hands, and his service is somehow responsible. One officer is fired because he didn't use deadly force against someone, but 4 officers remain on duty, remain off duty, but paid on vacation with awards because they did. Because they did. Because they killed. One department continuously lied about exactly what happened. First they said Manuel was attacking somebody. Then they said he was banging on doors. Then they say he kicked the police's door. If it wasn't for investigation, if it wasn't for a dedicated sister, if it wasn't for the Tacoma Action Collective, we wouldn't be in this space right now where we have separate witnesses. 3. We wouldn't be in this space right now where we have 3 different videos from separate angles. 3. And that's what it took for the state to be in a place where they thought maybe we should actually take over the investigation from Pierce County. I-940 has failed everybody, mainly because there's no enforcement mechanism within it.
Wow.
The only thing that is worse than unfairness is the creation of the illusion of fairness when things are still unfair. Mr. Furr, running with his babies in his arms, his baby in his arms, wrapped in both arms, not running fast, not really a danger to anyone. He wasn't going to let go of his child. He wasn't just going to drop him. Shot and killed. Blood on that baby. Blood on that infant child. Now, we live in a country where a man can walk in and kill 9 black parishioners in a church and later get a cheeseburger and treated well. But a black man carrying his baby in both arms gets shot without questions. An officer ends up being judge, jury, and executioner. And then what I can tell you about all of this. Now, they do say the pen is mightier than the sword. But the pen, coupled with a gun that silences the voice of another person, ends all justice. You heard the narrative that the Seattle Police Department gave. They said everything that they thought was bad about Mr. Furr. Everything that they thought would make us all not pay attention. Everything that they thought would end up being in a space where we'd say, oh, well, he deserved what he got. NAACP says we're done dying. I will tell you this, we are clearly on the beat. We are ready to roll. Things will change right here, right now.
There we go.
And we will keep moving until change actually occurs. And then when change occurs, we will continue to fight because we know that we have to. Because if we give up at any point in time, we could come back to exactly this space, exactly this rooftop, exactly these deaths, exactly these losses of loved ones. King County charges people with murder in 24 to 48 hours. They collect information, they get their reports, and they go.
That's statewide.
Pierce County does exactly the same thing.
Statewide.
But they've come up with every kind of reason as to why they can't charge.
Yep.
Mostly related to lies.
Yep.
Mostly related to excuses. Justice delayed is justice denied. 3 months, every single day. First being told how bad your child is when you know better. And then attempting to explain away all those things that we keep pointing out in terms of what was wrong on that night, on that day, on that moment. 100 pounds versus 2 men that are over 200 pounds. Charlena Lyles.
Since 2017.
This keeps going. It's on. It's on. And it's on. But I'm going to tell you right now, it is absolutely on. And anybody that is supportive of the mission and ready to roll, we will roll with. But if you're not authentically a part of the mission, if you're not actually trying to end this sort of hurt and pain, then move out of the damn way. Just go. If you're in this for yourself, if you're in a place where you think, hey, I'm going to be the leader, move out of the damn way. There is no leader here. This is a movement of people.
There we go.
And that's what matters here.
There we go.
That's what matters. Just stop killing people.
Huh. Open it up for questions.
Any questions?
Hi, Rita Shapiro, Seattle Times. First of all, for Emmanuel Ellis's family, I'm sorry I didn't get your full names, first name and last name, if you wouldn't mind spelling it. And then Monet, for you said that you had called, I believe, was it the Pierce County Sheriff's Office? I just wanted to double check that. And then lastly, I just want to open it up for everybody and say, I know a lot of you are upset with the way 940 has played out and the lack of enforcement there. And is there anything specific that you're calling for to make sure that there is enforcement?
So it's Monet, M-O-N-E-T, Carter, C-A-R-T-E-R, hyphen M-I-X-O-N. And my mom's name is Marcia, M-A-R-C-I-A, Carter, C-A-R-T-E-R. It was, so the detective, Brockner, was through Pierce County Sheriff's Office. And actually, I had one of Manny's friends go down because I was trying to track down his number. I had one of his friends go down to the courthouse because in the courthouse they have a Pierce County Sheriff's little subsection, and the lady, once she knew that we were talking about Manny, the clerk had denied that there was a Detective Brockner working for the Pierce County Sheriff's Office. So that's how in deep they are. Even like when we went to go and get the medical examiner's report, they called security on us. Like, they all know, like, someone is telling them not to do something. That's why we need the governor to really, like, I know there's COVID, but our people are dying right now. Like, we don't have time for that. Like, yeah, people are gonna die from COVID, but we're still getting killed by the police. And for the, what was the other question?
For 940, I'd just like to open it up to everybody. Is there some way, and also,
Hold on now, you
James,
can have a couple at a time for somebody else.
oh yes, I'm sorry, but when you're addressing it, just the AG had made an announcement today about investigating cases, and I just, if any of you want to react to that.
One of the things that I think is of critical importance is that we create an independent agency within the state of Washington that investigates police conduct. One that's not linked to any individual law enforcement agency, that likely rests somewhere close to the Washington State Attorney General's office. Before a Tuesday, about 2 weeks ago, I'd already dealt with 5 dead black bodies as a result of police violence. None of the agencies have lived up to I-940. Not in Mr. Furr's case, not in Manuel Ellis's case, not in any case. I just received word that there's actually a story that just got released saying that the state is now looking into 30 separate cases in which I-940 was not followed. That just got released. Critical. First thing, you're supposed to be in a place where you get a liaison as a family. Second thing, the department or the agency is not supposed to make disparaging comments about the person's past history. Third thing, they're supposed to do a conflict check, I believe, within 48 or 72 hours of receiving a case. Fourth thing, there's supposed to be civilian individuals, at least 2 of them, I believe, that are actually appointed to oversee exactly who's going to be part of the independent investigation team. Fifth thing, I think we're on 5 now, there's supposed to actually be an independent investigation team. These are issues and things that need to be drawn to directly to the state as an independent entity, separate and different from every single jurisdiction, whether it be Seattle, King County, Tacoma, Pierce County, Yakima County, Benton County, Spokane County, or anywhere in this state. It's what we need to have any chance of achieving any sort of justice. And justice is a very weak word, because when somebody's dead, when they're gone forever, when they can't sit at that dinner table any longer, when they can't hold their child, no justice is left. All we can do is try to prevent the next one. That's all we can do.
I'm going to also give the families an opportunity to respond. Ms. Johnson?
As far as the stuff with 940, I did advocate as a family member for 940. There are clearly several gaps within 940, and 940 is still under implementation right now. So there aren't everything isn't in place, and I don't know that even when everything is in place that it's going to save lives. The whole premise behind it was so that police officers could at least be held accountable. Before 940, them being held accountable was not even a thing. So the fact that somebody can actually be charged is an actual thing, whether the rest of 940 is working or not, because my family will never see that. But clearly, people are still dying, and people have been dying long before my cousin, and people have been dying after my cousin. And, you know, this isn't something that's going to get done quickly. It isn't going to change overnight. If that was the case, then I wouldn't still be dealing with this 3 years later. There are families all across the nation that are continuing to deal with their loved ones being murdered by police. It's not just here, it's everywhere. And I think that, you know, Black lives definitely matter. There are Black people being killed by the police at a very high rate, but let's not get it misconstrued. There are Native people who get killed at a higher rate than Black people by police. There are white people that die. It's not about race at the end of the day. It's really about good versus evil, and they are evil, and the only color that really matters to them is the blue, and they're protecting the blue above anything. So any of our loved ones from any community can fall victim to being killed by the police. That's all I have to say.
Any other questions? I want to just
Yeah?
one last one.
Okay. James, it wasn't clear on what you were saying about the Attorney General. So do you believe that the Attorney General should be involved in investigations or not? And what do you make of the news that came out this morning that his office is going to investigate deaths that may not be in compliance with 940?
At some point, we need an independent department that actually investigates police conduct and prosecutes police conduct as well. If the state attorney general ends up being a part of that, then I guess that's the way it works. But I want somebody that's focused and trained specifically on handling police misconduct cases, police conduct cases to such a degree that they actually are experts at prosecuting them. That's what we need in the state of Washington. That's what we need nationally. And yes, they do need to review every single case that the state does, every single case in this state that involves a loss of life because of officer actions. Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone, for your participation today. Thank you to the families. Continue to lift up your name. Know that the State Area Conference, we stand behind you. We've heard your demands. The fact that you've lost loved ones and you're still looking for answers. NAACP, we are committed to making certain that you not only get those answers, but that the officers who killed your loved ones are convicted. We stand beside you for that. This conversation will continue. I want to give a special thanks to the Seattle King County NAACP, Carolyn Riley Payne. NAACP here in the city has been in existence since 1913. Also want to give a big thank you to all of the executive members here of the State Area Conference, President Gerald Hankerson for hosting this conversation, giving the table to the actual families of police violence. And then, of course, our partnership with Africatown Community Land Trust, Wyking, Garrett, and Molly Moon Ice Cream, a true ally that goes beyond just sharing hashtags. She is actually a partner in this movement for your assistance in getting the families together and making this opportunity possible. Thank you all.
Before you go, I want Molly to announce our Get Out the Vote campaign. The Power of Five. This is key for us.
Okay. Very quickly, thank you so much. Thank you to families. I'm so sorry. I am Molly Moon. I own Molly Moon's Homemade Ice Cream. I'm a lifetime member of the NAACP. My grandparents from Idaho were lifetime members of the NAACP. And I've been working with Gerald for about a decade on paid sick time, on raising the minimum wage, on issues that can lift up Black folks in Seattle, in King County, and in Washington State, and lift up all of us. What Molly Moons is doing to partner with the NAACP this year is we are providing a staff member, a social media coordinator, and a lot of marketing help to get Black folks registered to vote and get their ballots turned in. There is a beautiful campaign by the NAACP called the Power of Five, where we are encouraging every person to get 5 people that they know in their own personal networks registered to vote, and then get them to actually turn their ballots in. And Molly Moons will be providing space right across the street from CHOP, next door to our Capitol Hill ice cream shop at 915 Pine Street. Come July 1st, it will be an NAACP voter registration and education headquarters in partnership with the NAACP of Washington, Oregon, and Alaska, and NAACP of Seattle, King County. And we encourage you to follow along as we launch that program on Instagram at NAACP_PNW, and on Facebook and Twitter also.
Right on. Thank you, Molly.
Thanks.